We'll see about that. That O line is gonna make or break the Jets in general because Rodgers is not as nimble as he used to be.
Welcome back to Not a Strong Start, a podcast by filmmakers who talk movies, television, and can constantly nonstop talking football. I'm your host, Da Holmes.
I am not your host, Brady Bunch.
So, in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about football movies. With the new season coming out of the NFL season, both of us are super excited. We're both diehard football fans, and we're excited to get into this one. But first, we're going to hit you with a current event.
So this is what I have here. So it's funny because we did an episode not too long ago where we were talking about movies that people probably don't know were based off of comic books or graphic novels. And one that we mentioned was The Crow. And we were saying like this seems like there's a lot of material there. They should do more with that. We are getting The Crow reboot, and it's going to be starring Bill Skarsgård as it.
Mm.
So, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so that's for those that don't know, that's one that played Pennywise, right? In the remake
Yes.
It, the one with the crazy eyes. I like him, man. I think he's a pretty good actor so far. You know, he was great. He was excellent as Pennywise. So to see him as the Crow, I think that's gonna look well because you always have to think with the Crow, it's the aesthetic look of him, and he always had some of the coolest paint to me. Like he aesthetically looks really cool. Like him and Spawn, I thought were like some of the really cool looking, heroes. And with him, it's like the character's eyes. So you're casting an actor with very distinguishable eyes. So I think he's going to aesthetically look pretty cool. So I think it'll be pretty good, man. I think we talked about on that episode that The Crow, I felt like needed a new remake. Like it needs to be revitalized because there's a lot of good lore there, and I don't feel like they quite have gotten it right yet. And I'm excited for it. How about you?
Yeah, because I rewatched The Crow not too long before that episode, and there are parts that still holds up. It still has some entertainment value to it,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's also a lot of like early 90s, like 80s, like cheesiness to it that does
Mm-hmm.
not hold up at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it could definitely use a refresh. And I think it's been long enough since we had that last movie that a reboot is warranted.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like Bill Skarsgård overall. I like what he did with Pennywise. I liked him in the new John Wick. He was in there. Even though the movie itself was The Last Conjuring, I felt he did a good job. So he's definitely a skillful actor, and he's played a variety of different roles. So I can see him playing this. I am curious as more details comes in of like, it's a storyline going to be similar to The Last Crow? Are they going to do a different approach? Like, what aspects are they going to target with it?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so it should be pretty exciting. I hope they move forward with it and they actually do it, right? Rather than just them, having the project fall off. But all right, you want to get into our main topic?
Let's do it.
All
All
right. So,
time.
yeah, so on this episode, we intentionally went with just us two on this one rather than bringing on a guest because most of the Nas team are not really football fans. So, Jose and I diehard football fans. So we really wanted to have the passion of it because there's so much about football, and then to get a good idea of what good football movies football fans enjoy, rather than just bringing on somebody that doesn't really know the sport and they're just going along with, oh, I like the one with Adam Sandler. It's like, okay, we wanted real football movies here. We wanted to go, talking about by real football fans. So first, let's get into it. Obviously, we're both huge football fans. How much of a football fan are you, Jose? What's your dedication
Oh,
to it?
I'm huge. I follow the three main sports, baseball, football, basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I think football is the one that I literally watch every week during the season. I
Mm-hmm.
catch every Patriots game, and when the Patriots are not playing, I've got Red Zone on to watch for the whole Sunday, watching every other game, which is something I don't do with the other sports, where I mostly just watch my team
Mm-hmm.
unless we're in the playoffs. So that's where my love of football is. And I mean, it's been since I was young, overall. Like I remember, probably around fifth, sixth grade is where I really started liking football. I remember this is here in New England with the winters for elementary school. Usually, school starts at 8, so you get there like at 7, and everyone's hanging out in the yard outside, waiting for their teacher to come in at 7:45 to bring them in. So of course, someone would always bring a football, especially on the when the everything was covered with snow. and we'll just be playing out there in concrete. And it was so much fun, especially try playing football if all the audience runs onto the field and you're playing around them. That's basically what it was, where this everyone's waiting in there and you're literally jumping like I'm over here, pass it to me, like as people
Yeah.
are going through,
Yeah.
sliding through the snow. By the time your teacher gets there, everyone's all dirty and wet and everything. So that just playing it is what inspired like my passion for football. What about you?
Yeah, that's good. Man, I've been watching this since I was like young. Like my family, it's such a huge tradition for my family. And like on Sundays, it's known as like a holy day, on top of it being a holy day. It was also another holy day because it was football. But like we would always get together as a family and watch it. So being young, I would always associate family, family and football together, together. And even now, we like hosting Super Bowls and things like that, whether my team's in it or not. And for a long time, they were not. So it happened. It almost made Super Bowls a lot looser when my team's not in it. I don't know about you, but like it was, it gets very intense. But yeah, so I've always been a huge fan of it. I played it when I was young. I was in Pee Wee and stuff. I started playing it in high school. I love football. And I just remember playing on the concrete, like you said, like during school. I remember like some kids surrounding and watching. And I just remember those moments where, a kid, I'd always play wide receiver running and then catching like on the fingertips for a touchdown. Like you have those dope highlight reel moments that you catch it and it's like the kids cheering and like it's such a confidence booster. Like, yeah, like it's such a good feeling, man. Like there's so many good things that come with football. So I grew up, well, I guess we'll get into our football team. So first of all, who's your team and explain why?
Patriots all the
There
way.
you go.
I mean, around the time where I started getting into football and started playing it and started watching it, I was living in the Boston area. So, and football and the Patriots are huge over here. So that's why I started following. So I became a fan of the Patriots at that point. It was pre-Brady. Pre-Brady. This is,
Mm,
before that, then pre-huge dynasty. I still remember the jambalaya Super Bowl against Green Bay. We didn't do that well, but yeah, ever since then. And I know you're Kansas City, but you're not from Kansas City. So how did that happen?
correct. And I get asked that all the time. So here's the story. So I'm putting out there to the listeners. Hopefully, I don't want to repeat myself for the rest of my life, but I'm still going to because people always ask, right? Because the Chiefs are now good, having won 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. So now people can assume, oh, you're a bandwagon jumper. No, I am not. So I grew up around San Francisco. My entire family is composed of either Niner fans or Raider fans constantly. And I was a Niner fan when I was a kid, but I was little. And my favorite player growing up was Joe Montana. So the Joe Montana Jerry Rice connection. The Niners traded Joe Montana over to the Kansas City Chiefs, and I was so heartbroken. I didn't understand at the time because I was little. I was like 5, 6, maybe something like that. I didn't understand why they would trade them. And like, yeah, well, they have Steve Young. I'm like, fuck Steve Young. This is Joe Montana. This was the GOAT at the time. Brady didn't come yet. This was the best quarterback in the league. How are you going to trade him? Like, he's family. Like, I love him. So I ended up going, well, wherever he goes, I go. So I went, he was only there for a couple years. I didn't realize when I was 6 years old that I'd be making a lifelong decision. I didn't realize it was going to affect me for the rest of my life. It did. So I went to the Chiefs, bought a bunch of gear. And then as I was around 8, 9, then I started going through that phase of like, my brother likes this thing. I want my own stuff. I want to be my own separate thing. So I just stuck with the Chiefs. And the Chiefs have always been that team where it's been very frustrating since I've been a fan of them because they're always good enough to keep you enticed. And then they would be bad for a couple seasons. And then they'll come back and they'll give me Marcus Allen. Then they'll give me the Priest Holmes. Then they give me the Larry Johnson. Then they give me the Tony Gonzalez. So they keep teasing. They keep making the playoffs. They keep winning their division every so often. They get a first round bye and then they lose every time. And I never witnessed a playoff win, outside of Montana. I just never witnessed one when I like became a diehard football fan. And it just took so long. So that's why people say, oh, are you only a band? Screw you, dude. I spent through 20 years of misery of just being teased, of being blue balled so many times of just not winning a damn playoff game. I just wanted to win a playoff game, Jose. You have no idea how frustrating that is. Just win one because I have Raider fans talking crap and Niner fans talking crap. And it was just so annoying. So when the Chiefs finally made their first Super Bowl, who do they go against? The Niners. my, my that was like my family Super Bowl, and we talked so much trash leading up to that game, and it was so glorious when we won. It was
I,
chef's kiss.
I think you guys, if I recall correctly, you guys might have been responsible for one of our championships that we had. I believe you guys beat us early in the season,
Game one,
and everyone declared that this was the end of the Patriots.
and you guys got
And
mad at me.
then Bill said his famous, "We're on to the next one," and we never looked back. And it was
Yes.
thanks to you guys.
So you're welcome. Yes. Which is ironic enough because you guys helped motivate Mahomes. And freaking D Ford was offsides and you took a Super Bowl away from Mahomes. He snapped into a different one and we won right afterwards. So, greatness breeds greatness. And Brady was always those ones that I hated for so long, like how LeBron was. If he's against you, you hate him for so long. And there hits a certain point where when they get this level of success, you just can't help but just at least respect
Yeah.
the wins. No matter what your personal feelings are or how they go about it, they're still winning championships. So you still have to have the level of respect. So I got a ton of respect for Brady now, and he's he gives Mahomes a lot of advice. So I appreciate that. But okay, we're going off on a tangent here. Too much about football now. now you get a preview of how it is. This is how it is, and we're in a fantasy league together.
I,
So we
I
constantly
mean,
talk
this is
football.
considering we literally talked football about 30 minutes before we even hit record.
We did an entire episode. We can almost do an entire football show if we wanted. You know what I mean? I feel like we could because there's so much to talk about. It's so fun. It's just so exciting. It's like outside of our love for movies, it's safe to say our love for football is like the very next thing. You know what I mean? It's right there outside of movies, I think. So yeah, so that's why I thought, this is the excitement and the joy that we wanted. This is why it's us here on this podcast in this episode talking about this. So let's get into it. What makes a good football movie to you? Let's start off there.
All right. I feel there's certain things they have to be hit when it comes to a football movie for me. First of all, you need good gameplay. It's like I know there's gonna be drama, there's gonna be all this other stuff, character interactions, but the gameplay has got to be good. I got to be invested in the game aspect of it. Another one, I feel the best football movies, they have a good building of the stakes of winning or losing the final game. Because most of these
Mm,
movies are always going to come down to that game at the end. And if you don't properly build up like the stakes of whether they win or lose, you're not going to have me invested in that game. And then lastly, the the final moments of the game has to be tense.
yeah.
Like I want to be where like if I'm watching a real Super Bowl with my team, I'm at the edge of my seat, like, oh, what are they gonna do? What's gonna be the play? Who's gonna get it? Like, are they gonna win? Are they gonna lose? Like that all the tension that you build throughout that entire movie with character interactions, with the stakes of the game, everything has to come to a collision at the very end, win or lose. So I've seen it done well when they lose that final game, and I've seen it done well when they win it. The tension has to be there. That's my criteria for a good football movie. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you said you're at the edge of your seat in the Super Bowl, you watched the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl when you guys were down 28-3 at my house. So I saw first first sight of that. Yes, I know that feeling. To me, there has to be a realness to the game. I don't like it when they call it like football movies and the football feels like a backdrop. You know what I'm talking about? Like it doesn't feel like football is really one of the main characters. The football has to be part of the forefront. It has to feel like a football movie. And you can't just have it as a backadary thing and it's just focused on something else. So I think that's the first step because then to me, it's not a true football movie. It just happens to take place around football.
Mhm.
Everything else you said is legit. They really had to pump up the football stuff. I feel like, in my personal opinion, I feel like even though they have a lot of football movies, I feel like they don't have a large amount that have done it right. I feel like more often than not, they miss. And I really want to see more upcoming movies, not counting 80 for Brady. I don't know if that's part of your list of the good ones, but like, I want to get some really good football movies here. Let's get some real good ones.
Yeah, we don't really get it. Again, and we've said this about multiple genres, where there were certain genres that uh, would hit a lot. They would come out a lot in the past. Think about all the sports movies we got in, 80s, 90s, early 2000s.
Basketball
And
had a lot.
then, yeah, and we don't really get them that often. You get a couple sprinkled here and there. Like I said, like you mentioned, 80 for Brady, I think was
Hmm.
like the last one that I saw that popped up over there. And we
Yeah.
do have some shows like Winning Time and things like that. But I remember we used to get a lot. I mean, Kevin Costner alone has like five like sports
Yeah.
movies. So
He does,
uh
man. And we're not counting the Air Bud 3, okay? Golden Retriever. Like that's not what we're
no,
talking about.
no,
Or Golden
no.
Receiver, which is one of the greatest football movies ever.
Oh
Light and
yeah.
sarcasm. Yes.
What was the first football movie you remember watching?
Okay, so to me, this is hard, but I think the first one I remember watching is Little Giants. I think it's that one. That at least the one that I
Yeah.
actively wanted to watch. Was that yours too?
That is the
Yeah.
first one I remember watching as a kid.
So many moments, like you have an icebox, the girl linebacker. It was awesome. The little kid, what you saying about my mama? Like,
The annexation of Puerto Rico. I mean, come on.
yes.
Like,
Hey,
yeah.
exactly. Yes. I still
And
reference that.
yeah, I remember when I watched it, the annexation of Puerto Rico. I'm like, what? Okay, all right.
Hey,
Boricua represent.
Boricua. Yeah, man. It was such a fun movie. And I know it's like another corny kids movie or whatever, but it was one of the few ones, like you said, that revolved around football. And I felt like they did it well. Like it's one of those ones where it didn't feel like the football was the backdrop. The whole town was centered around football to the point where you knew it was like a college football town so much that even the kids, little kids, Pee-wee was so important. So it didn't necessarily come off as unbelievable because towns like that, those smaller Midwest towns, they take their football that seriously. And even Pee-wee football could be taken that seriously. So it was believable in my sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I felt it was such a great casting to have Al Bundy in it. Yes, I know that's not his real name, but he will forever be Al Bundy.
Yes.
I know he has
Pokai.
another hit show that won awards in Modern Family, but
Yeah.
when I think him, I think Married with Children, Al Bundy, and
Yep.
I think about him sitting on the couch, hand in the pants, talking about
Yeah.
those four touchdowns he got in one
Yeah.
game.
Pokai legend.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was like the perfect thing because I saw him in there and I'm thinking it was like almost the same character to me. I'm like, oh, now he's coaching after that historic game that he had and he didn't make it. At least that was
Yeah.
like what I was playing in my head. So
Yeah.
I think that was a good intro into football movies for me personally.
Yeah. And then you had Rick Moranis. That was his brother, that was like the unathletic one who's such a perfect casting because that's the Honey I Shrunk the Kid, actor. And Rick Moranis totally encompasses the dorky, nerdy, you've never played football. Clearly, you probably had to Google, which they didn't even have Google then, but you had to, whatever your version of Google was, going to the probably the library and looking in the dictionary of what football was, like it fit it so perfectly. So you have the haves versus the have nots. And like you said, it was such great casting for the kids because I don't feel like any of the kids were really like bad actors. You know what I mean? Like the little kids all carry their own. Like they're all solid actors. Yeah. So let's get into some of the great ones. So what are some of the movies that you thought that were, some of your favorites?
One, I'll have to go with one I actually rewatched recently, just because every once in a while I have to rewatch it because it's so good, and that's gonna be The Replacements.
Okay.
With Keanu Reeves. It's more towards the comedic side of it, but it's such an entertaining movie, and it puts the full focus into the football of it. And for those who haven't seen it, the general concept of this movie is it's a fake league, it's a fake NFL, so it's not real teams, and the players want more money, so they've gone on strike. We know about strikes these days. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so they go on strike, and then you actually um, have the owner get a coach to get replacement players. So they pull these players out of obscurity, ex players who didn't make it. or retired or had incidences that changed their life, and they put them on this team, this like group of personalities. And that's what makes this movie really entertaining is that you care for this team and all their personalities kind of shine. And the fact that they're able to bring it together, it makes it a fun team. So you're watching them having fun, you're having fun watching them. And they definitely put the stakes into perspective on top of the laughs. So that's why this is one of my favorite football movies.
Yeah, and it's such a great idea because you have, even though it's made up, but we're gonna for the most part say it's NFL, right? That's kind of what it was intended to be. But you have this game, like even just the latest football game, the very first opener this season, it drew 27 million viewers. That tells you how much of a king the NFL and football is. So you have this league. So imagine if the players were on strike and you still have this very uh exciting fan base that's just waiting to see, the sport, and you're throwing out a bunch of replacement players that like have zero experience being in the league, and they're having to try to work out these plays, and they have like past high school, maybe some college experience. That's an interesting premise because you have people way out of their league playing in the league, going against people that are just like them. It's interesting. You know what I mean? It's a really
Yeah.
interesting premise.
And it's not as far-fetched. I mean, it's not super realistic. It's not
Yeah.
as far-fetched because it wasn't too long ago that we actually had the referee strike and we got
Mm-hmm.
replacement refs in the
Yeah.
league. And we
Yeah.
remember how fun that was
Oh my
for as a
God.
fan for the players.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of that, but except it's the player concepts. And
Yeah.
it's got a really good cast. It's led by, Keanu Reeves in it, and
Mm.
Keanu Reeves is Keanu Reeves
Yeah. Yeah.
in it, but there's so many good like moments in it that you kind of remember.
Yeah. So here's one that I have. This movie's cheesy. It's over the top, which a lot of these football movies are. Let's just be honest. But I like it, and I go to this one a lot. Any given Sunday.
Oh, that was my next one.
I love Any Given Sunday, man. I love Jamie Foxx in it. So like that. So for those that haven't watched it, it's about a fake football team, and it's the Miami Sharks. So sort of like the Miami Dolphins, but he's a third string quarterback that's thrust into the team that's struggling to try to make the playoffs. But he has such a showboat kind of almost Michael Vick type, excitement when he plays that he ends
Willie
up doing
Beeman.
Willie B. I make the women screaming. Like great music video, by the way. And then you have LL Cool J, who is so perfectly cast as a diva running back that wants his yards. Like you even have a young Terrell Owens playing a wide receiver. You know what I mean?
LT.
LT
LT.
play, yes, man. And he acted his butt off. Like he was
Yeah.
so good in that. Like I believed it. I like it. And then you have Al Pacino as the coach, man. And you have Cameron Diaz as like the a-hole owner, that's taking over her dad's, business and stuff. And it's a fun movie. Like again, it's ridiculous. It's over the top, but it's exciting. And you cast a bunch of over the top kind of diva type personalities that mix very, very well. And it was fun.
No, and that one I think the speech that Pacino gives towards the end is one of the best sports speeches that there is. Like
Yes.
I remember every time I watch that movie and I get that speech, I'm like, I want to like tear something apart. Like
Yeah, man, it
I
does.
can't just sit on the couch after watching that speech. Like I gotta go do something.
Yes, man. It's awesome. And I even like the ending where they get the, expansion team and then you're seeing that they're moving them over. It's like, man, like I wish we got a part two. Like that would have been fun to watch.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that was my next choice. You took my choice.
Yes.
Ah, I mean, there's a lot of choices. So since this is more on the serious end, I'll go back to another one that's more on the comedic end for my other one, and I'm gonna go the Waterboy
Okay.
on this one. Adam Sandler, one of his better movies. Probably my favorite Adam Sandler movie,
Mm.
I think, out of all of them. Not by a lot, but another movie that's just filled with great moments all around. So many. It's such a quotable movie. Uh, the football that they show on it is it's good. I was a toss up between this and like The Longest Yard. On top of that too, but so good. The Waterboy. I got to rewatch that. It's been a while since I rewatched that.
Yeah, it's one that I should watch more often. I see it every so often, but it's funny, man. We suck again. Like we have Rob Schneider in it. It was
Goose
funny,
goes
man.
for the devil.
Yeah, and Henry Winkler, man. Shout out Henry Winkler. He was
Yeah.
great in this movie. He was probably one of my favorite parts of the entire movie. I think was him. You know, it's
Mm.
I'm a fan of him. I like him. You know, it was when he came out, of course, as the Fonz, and there was like a lot of dry spell that we hadn't seen him in a while. And then I felt like Waterboy was kind of like a resurgence. We're kind of put him back on the map as a very different type of character because it was shortly around that time that we saw him in Scream. Right? And we
Mm.
saw him as a principal that ended up, getting killed. But yeah, Waterboy's fun, man. Another movie that I had, so I have a bunch of them. Uh,
Yeah.
one I went with was Remember the Titans, Denzel Washington. It's
Yeah.
so good. Like you have a him as like a high school coach, and you have again a good collection of personalities. You have young Ryan Gosling that's in it, you know. It was good, man. It's Denzel doing Denzel, and Denzel played a phenomenal coach. It's the type of dialogue that he gives, is the speeches that he gives. It's not funny now, is it? He's just standing there laughing at Donald Faison. Like it was just really fun, man. It was really fun, and it was centered around the games. High school football is such a nice storyline and backdrop to focus on.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good one. That was one that leans more towards like the inspirational
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it. And that's the thing, like with these movies, they can be comedy. You have your football movies that are more like your inspiring movies, like overcoming, and then you have your movies that focus more just strictly on the ins and out of the sport and the competition. So you have even within football movies, multiple categories. Like there's a few other honorable mentions that we could throw out there, like We Are Marshall. I feel is one that fits in that
Mm-hmm.
inspiring one. And for those who haven't seen that, it revolves around I think Marshall University. I think it was a university where basically it's there's a plane crash and they lose the majority of their team to death. So then they have to like replace them and they have to come together and kind of play their season in dedication to those that they lost and kind of overcome that great loss. So you get those inspiring ones like that one, which is another one good one to mention.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's one that I enjoy, Jerry Maguire. I don't label that as a football movie. It's about a sports agent, but I still like watching in the sense where he's a sports agent, and we don't get a lot of movies like that. And it was so fascinating to see that point of view of it, of behind the football scenes. And you see him with his with the football clients that he has, losing them, bonding to Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, trying to elevate his career for that contract extension, with the Arizona Cardinals. It was interesting, man. I liked it. Did you like that one?
That one, yeah, that one was also good. Definitely enjoyed that one. Another one I think that I wanted to mention, just because I know you talked about with Little Giants and how the town was so obsessed with football, and I think another movie also show that really shows that obsession that a town, and you get that a lot, I think, with the southern towns,
Mm-hmm.
in Texas and things like that, their obsession with the home, not even the professionals, their hometown teams at such a high level that it becomes life, it becomes breath, is Friday Night Lights. And you get that with the movie, and then there was also a TV show, both really good on their own as it is, but that's what that revolves around, small town football where these kids are falling into that, and all the parents and all the people in town are obsessed with it, where they pretty much become celebrities, heroes, and villains within their
Mm-hmm.
own town, depending on what they do on the field.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's one that I need to watch. I didn't get into it when it was on. Not that I watched and I didn't like it. I just never watched it. That's one that I know you've talked about a lot, and that's one I want to get into. Here's one that's what do they call it? Like a guilty pleasure.
Mhm.
This movie's not good, but I still like going to it once in a while because it's interesting. Draft Day with Kevin Costner.
I never saw that one.
Really? So the premise is that he's the general manager of the Browns, and his father was like a famous, like a really successful one. So he's like the predecessor now, but he's getting kind of flack because the Browns are a floundering franchise, as you know, repeats reality. Like they haven't had any kind of level of success. So in this movie, he's the general manager and he's getting pressure from the owner to move up in the draft. So the whole day is like the day of the NFL draft, and there's prospects that he loves and some that are being forced on him. And the question is he going to do it? Is he going to move up in the draft? What is he giving up? And you kind of see that dramatic behind it all leading up to the draft, and you see the draft itself. So I recommend it for you if you haven't seen it. It's interesting, it's fun, but it's a
Another
guilty
Kevin
pleasure.
Costner sports
It's
movie.
another guilty.
I'll,
Kevin
I'll
Costner
watch it
loves his
just for that.
sports
He knows how to do sports movies. So that's one of the ones that deals more with like the technical aspect, the in and outs of the football.
because then they eat up a lot of yards on that. Speaking of eating up a lot of yards, let's cut into the segue of our sponsor, Pete's Meat, a pop-up barbecue place that they give tri-tips, they give briskets, they give pork bellies. Pork belly's good. It's over in the San Fernando Valley area. If you look at Pete's Meats, sfv.com, you could see where he's going to be popping up at. They have a bunch of delicious food. Jose, you've had his food, right? How good is it?
Oh, it's delicious. I was having Pete's Meats before he even had Pete's Meats on there. I know. Usually when I'm taking my trip to California, that's one of the things that I'm looking for is like, all right, is Pete gonna prepare some meat like this weekend? But it's
Yeah,
really good. What
yeah,
is
it's
it?
really yeah.
Pete's. He's got the no, wait, that's taken. I can't say
That's taken. Can't say
that.
that one. Meat made by Pete's, something like that. We'll have to go with that.
Yeah.
But let them know that the Nos team sent you, and they're gonna hook you up with a little bit of deliciousness. So go ahead and try it. Pete's Meat. All right, let's hit him with the what's on the queue. So for our listeners that are football fans, maybe some that aren't, and just want to watch a good football movie, what's a movie that you'll recommend that did football right?
Okay. Besides all the ones that we mentioned, so treat that as a long queue as it is. But one that we didn't mention, starring The Rock, another one of the inspiring ones, The Great Iron Gang from 2006.
Mm,
That's also a good checkout if you're looking for a football movie that's one of those uplifting, overcoming adversity type movies.
nice. I thought you were gonna intercept my choice right now, but you didn't. You chose a different one. I went with Rudy. So you can't sit
Yeah.
here and talk about and have a football movie without mentioning the movie Rudy, which has Sean Austin in this. So Rudy, we had the crowd cheering, Rudy, Rudy, Rudy. They get you excited, man. Rudy's fun. It's about, the young plucky kid that's trying to make the football team and wants to make a play, and they put him in there and he lives up to glory. So it's what you said. You have a lot of these small towns where football is life. And like much of America, it is life. And even to us, couple of guys that are sitting in the big cities, football's still life to us as well. Despite the fact we have a lot of distractions, we still come back together as a family and friends to watch football on Sundays.
Agree.
There we go. So let's get it. So how excited for you are this new football season?
Oh, I'm so pumped to watch it. I'm not sure how well we're going to do. I'm excited to watch the process.
Yes, we are the defending Super Bowl champs. I would like to see us repeat, but we have some early struggles. We'll see how we do. We're at the end of the case. I still love watching the Super Bowl, anyways. If my team's not in it, I get to enjoy it more. When my team's in it, I am like so nervous. How nervous are
Don't
you
talk to
at
me.
Super Bowl? It is like how nervous are you leading up to the Super Bowl? Are you like petrified?
Oh, I remember being like anxious like during the game itself. Like I'll pick my corner, which is why I don't like to go out to watch the games. I
Yeah.
want to watch the game. I want to listen to it. If I'm gonna go somewhere, it's gonna be in a house, not a large group,
Mm-mm.
just
Mm-mm.
small group of friends. Because I'm there to watch the game. I'm not there to
Mm.
watch the commercials. I'll watch them, but I'm not there for the commercials.
I didn't when the Chiefs won this last Super Bowl. I swear to you, I couldn't remember a single commercial. I was just so like, okay, what's happening? I was just so in my head about what's happening, and like I'm so stuck in the zone. I'm yelling out expletives. whether it's in joy or in anger. Like I'm all over the place. You could not take me in a public setting when my team's in the playoffs playing. You
You go
can't.
into the other room, talking game plan like they can hear you.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, like flank, flank. Like, yeah, man, it's not a good look. So yeah, we're excited for it, but nothing more than excited for this episode and our podcast. Not a strong start. So
Hopefully we get more sports movies in general going forward.
there you go, especially football ones. Let's see it. Okay, so thank you for watching another episode of Not a Strong Start. You can like, comment, share, subscribe on our YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter at Not a Strong Start. You can follow me. I'm your host, Da Holmes. You can follow me at King_Sangre.
I'm not your host, Brady Bunch, and you can find me at This Is Me Nombre on Instagram.
There you go. So let's go ahead and spike this episode.